Welcome to our weekly Capital Connection. I'm Sheridan Johnson. I'm the Government Relations Specialist here at the Montana Chamber. And like I said, our two other folks are disposed of at hearings or elsewhere. And so I'll give you a recap of last week, touch on where our priority bill and answer any questions after we stop the recording. So last week was pretty slow to get started, but we had a couple housing. House Bill 819 was in Senate Business and Labor. That's Paul Green's kind of innovative reinvestment fund bill that we're supporting. Some education bills and tax credits on that. Senate Bill 14 was heard on Thursday in House Tax and was passed yesterday with two amendments. I was just listening to that before I hopped on. If you care about those, that's 002. So that's amendments 2.2 and 2.3 were both passed. And the second one did raise it to 24 million. And so there was some confusion in the body on precisely what his second amendment was doing. But those other amendments did and create incentives to give the credit to veterans and Montana citizens and students. There's some other things in there. That was amendment 2.2, and then 2.3 changed the restriction on Montana domiciled companies to Montana like construction entities. So like they had to be physically located in Montana, not just domiciled, which is good for the media industry here. With that, Senator Hertz had about 11 or 12 tax bills in House Tax last week. And I luckily was not up there on the Hill sitting through that. We had a couple different ones in there I'm happy to talk about. And then a couple tourism ones. And then there was Senator Nolan, Senate Bill 557 on MEPA litigation specifically, and that was in House Natural Resources. And then yesterday, they did suspend the rules and introduced a new bill, House Bill 971. It's Representative Kastmeyer's bill that will create some exemptions for different kinds of companies in terms of environmental review. The whole purpose of that was to ensure that MEPA is just procedural. I don't know all of the details on that one, but happy to direct you to Charles or Todd as you work on that. We were the first proponent in that hearing yesterday. And so just a good one regarding business getting involved here in the state and as they ensuring that's procedural, like I mentioned. And then as far as our priorities, we're looking good over here on the chamber side. We've got 8 of our 9 priority bills that we introduced. And then we kind of have been really supporting House Bill 212, which was the business equipment tax, but that of course has already been signed into law. Great news there. And then our tort reform package, Senate Bill 93 has passed its third reading just yesterday and will now return to the Senate with amendments. And then Senate Bill 216, Senator Fitzpatrick's bill on products liability, and Senate Bill 93 was the ballot initiative modernization process. 216 also passed its third reading and should be coming onto the floor soon. Because it got amended in the House as well, so that's headed back to the Senate. And then all of our other bills have, with the exception of just one that started in the House, have made it to enrolling or have been returned from enrolling. And so they're just waiting on the governor's signature. So we're really counting that as a win here with a really good session as far as the number of and quality of the bills that we got to introduce kind of as chamber projects on that tort reform arena. So that includes insurance claims cooperation and time-limited demand standards. The third-party litigation financing, SB 269, has got some attention from the Institute for Legal Reform on the national level, and that that bill has been struggling other places. And like, as you've heard before, that bill doesn't bar litigation financing. It just sets some sidebars on it to protect consumers. And so that one has really sailed through, and we're really proud of that one. And then a couple other ones on captive insurers and offer of settlement law. And I'm happy to provide those numbers for you if that interests you. But that's the update I have here this week. It seems like the House and Senate are trying to work through that budget part of it. We heard an update on the budget yesterday, and just they aren't doing too terribly, and the chair of the Appropriations Committee said that this wasn't the hardest session he's had to figure out, so that's good news. But there are just lots of folks with ideas for where that surplus should go, and all those different rebates, and trying to get that to balance out at the end of the session. And we'll see when Sine Die really does happen. It's scheduled for May 5th. There's been some rumors around the Capitol with people's rentals here in Helena expiring the end of April, and whether or not we'll be sticking into May or not. But as this is my first legislative session, it's been a really fun ride, and I'm excited to see where it goes.